Good day, it is Althea from the Bible in 1 year. Today we spend time in Numbers 28. Be careful to present. The chapter starts with a very important instruction from God to Moses in verse 1 and 2. You shall be careful to present at its appointed time my offering, my food for my offering by fire as a sweet and soothing aroma to me. All the animals, the grain, and the oil for use in the offerings belongs to me. It is I who care and provide for you. This is my instruction to you. Be careful to follow them exactly. This reminds us of Nadab and Abihu, who offered in an inappropriate way that resulted in their death in Leviticus 10 verse 1 and 2. Here Israel is still in the wilderness. They are not yet settled as prosperous farmers in the promised land. The chapter contains very specific instructions for offers throughout the year. The size of the grain and drink offerings varied with the animals being offered. These different offerings, each with a purpose in mind, make several points. It points to the importance of sacrifices offered in public worship on behalf of the whole nation. This does not include the private sacrifice of the layperson who wants to bring an offering for personal reason. These offerings gave Joshua, the newly appointed leader, the strong assurance that the nation will indeed inherit the promised land. They will become a strong, prosperous agricultural nation, able to provide for this lavish, expensive worship. Thirdly, these sacrifices highlights the importance of the sabbatical principle. Not only the Sabbath every seventh day, but also the doubling of the daily sacrifices on the Sabbath and the huge amount sacrifices for the other feasts of the year. The daily offerings in the morning and in the evening, verse 3 to 8, a statement of trust in God, a statement of the need for atonement, and an expression of devotion. It was offered as a daily routine of prayer, a sweet and soothing aroma offered to the Lord. Most were burnt offerings, that mean the whole animal were offered to God, a metaphor of complete wholeheartedly surrendering of self to God, a complete destruction of the animal as a request for renewal of the relationship between the holy God and sinful man. Every 7 days, the Sabbath offerings, verse 9 and 10, involved double the number of offerings to the Lord. This sacred assembly was a sign of the covenant between Israel and the Lord. Exodus 31, verse 13. The new moon sacrifices on the first of the month, verse 11 to 15, was spent as a festival of family worship, consecrating each new month in the year to God. Passover was celebrated every year on the 14th day of the first month. They did so in remembrance of the exodus out of Egypt, to celebrate how God freed them from slavery, verse 16. The feasts of the unleavened bread followed immediately after Passover, verse 16 to 25. A holy gathering of family worship offered for 7 days, eating only unleavened bread. Unleavened bread, also called bread of affliction, in the remembrance of their days of suffering as slaves in Egypt. They had to leave Egypt in a haste. Therefore, there was no time for the bread to rise. Deuteronomy 16 verse 3. Like leaven permeates the whole lump of dough, Galatians 5 verse 9, so will sin spread. Eventually, it will bring you into bondage, and the price of sin is death. Romans 6 verse 23. 7 weeks, 50 days after Passover, they had the Feast of Weeks. It was a grain festival, also called the Day of First Fruits. Again, it was a holy assembly offering of first fruits to express gratitude for God's provision. The Feast of Weeks was an important foreshadowing of the coming Messiah and his ministry. Jesus' whole physical body was crucified as the Passover lamb, sacrificed as a burnt offering on the cross, completely consumed to atone for all sins and to restore the broken relationship with God. Jesus rose from the grave as the Feast of First Fruits. 50 days after resurrection, Jesus ascends to heaven to take his rightful place at the right hand of God. Jesus sends the Holy Spirit in his place to indwell and empower the disciples for ministry. The day the Holy Spirit arrived is the day of Pentecost, another name for the Feast of Weeks. When Jesus' blood flowed on the cross, his sacrifice fulfills the need for burnt and drink offerings forever. Leaven is a symbol of sin. Therefore, the unleavened bread points to the fact that the body of the church, believers, will be sinful until Christ returns. Therefore, man remains in need of atonement. The first fruit harvest continues today with new believers coming to Christ. But another coming harvest is when God will again turn his attention to Israel so that all of Israel will be saved. Romans 11 verse 26. As a Christian, daily prayer to God forms part of the offer we need to bring, brought as a statement of our trust in God, our daily need for restitution and expression of our devotion, our daily obedience, the daily kindle of our relationship and worship of the one true God. May you be blessed. Goodbye.